I'm Christy Nicola. I was a subject in radiation as well as mind control and drug experiments performed by a man I knew as Dr. Green. And Donald Richard Ebner, my natural father, was involved with Dr. Green in the experiments.
Dang.
Dr. Green performed radiation experiments on me in 1970. All these experiments were performed on me in conjunction with mind control techniques and drugs in Tucson, Arizona.
You already know what it is. It's your boy Laid Back with another reaction, another review, another episode. Hey, TikTok, you up to bat. Bah.
Bitch, I'm drowning up in it. Most of you niggas is lazy. Half of you niggas fugazi. Yeah, I be spitting that crack shit, cause I was born in the 80s.
It's your boy Laid Back. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, two things we gotta do. You gotta hit that subscribe button. I'm drinking this water. You already know what it is, man. Think rich in 2026. Think rich in 2026. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with all the videos. We back with another one. This is about like mind control, celebrities, and the CIA. It's gonna be some stuff in this one. You make it to the end of this one, you a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments. Don't forget to share this with the last person you text in your phone, man, if you a real one. But let's go ahead and get into it. Fire Squad, what's popping? Let's get it. Before we get back into the video, I want to tell you guys a quick and easy way that you can make money just by playing games on your phone. Free Cash is a program that helps games and apps to find new users. So how it works is the companies get paid just from you playing the games. But where Free Cash comes in is they take some of that money and they reroute it to you. Now, this is not a get rich quick scheme. You actually have to play the games to actually get the money. So you can either hit the link in my description or you can use the QR code on the screen. Super easy to sign up. All you need is an email and a password. If you use the link, they'll give you $5 immediately to your account, credited to your account by using the link. And it's super easy to withdraw. You can either withdraw through Bitcoin, PayPal, or bank transfer. Super easy. Most people is making like $10 to $20 a day. But if you got some time, you can really lock in. You can see that this game right here is paying $1,020 just to complete it. So it's games out there where you can make some money for real, but you got to lock in and put the time in though. So if you already use your phone to play games and stuff like that, let that phone actually make some money for you too. So make sure you hit that link in the description, hit the QR code, make some easy money, man. Shout out to the squad. Peace.
What's the CIA's most disturbing experiment?
To me, they had a experiment that they did in Canada, and I'm never so many times people are like, oh, well, you must know all about this MK Ultra project and names and dates and locations. I care about the techniques and the methods and the protocols and stuff that were a result of MK Ultra. I'm not like, let me go fact check and get everybody's name right and dates. I don't have any of that because it was never important to me. But they did this thing in Canada. They took people coming in for just normal appointments, like I have postpartum depression or I have anxiety, and they would against their will do this thing called psychic driving. Had nothing to do with being psychic. It just meant psychic of the mind. And they would give them massive, prolonged doses of LSD. And in some cases, tape their eyes open like Clockwork Orange and play these videos in front of their face all the time. They thought it was going to like reprogram their brain somehow. But what happened was a lot of the people had to learn how to walk again. They couldn't control their bladder. They had to learn how to control their urine and stuff like that again. Some of them lost 30, 40 years of memories from their life. And these were people who checked into a clinic for like anxiety. And this was funded by MK Ultra, and it was in Canada. And it's so well known and it's so open that even the Canadian government paid the people's families.
Do your own research. This is going to be...
The room became very distorted, and I thought my bones were all melting. And I just wanted to scream that I wanted to get out of there. And I saw the squirrels outside, and I thought, they're not the squirrels, I'm the squirrel. I'm in this cage, and I can't get out. And I started to throw myself from side to side in the room. And I couldn't write. They had given me a pencil and paper and asked me to write down, but I couldn't write. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't focus. I couldn't. I don't know. It was like some kind of funny hell I'd fallen into, and I couldn't get out. And I don't know how long that went on. It was just a terrible nightmare. And I just felt that my life was threatened. I could never go back to what I'd been.
Yo, this about to be some wild shit, yo.
Kanye West has just dropped proof that there are handlers in Hollywood that are taking care of these celebrities and making them do things. Kanye dropped these text messages from him and his personal trainer, Harley. Harley right here says there's 2 ways he can help Kanye. The number 1 way is that they can sit down and have an open discussion, a loving conversation. Or look at the second option. I have you institutionalized again, where they medicate the crap out of you and you go back to zombie land forever. Play date with the kids just won't be the same. So as you can see, this Harley dude is talking like he can have Kanye sent to, you know, institutions that will medicate the crap out of him, and he will go back into zombie land. All that I can think of when I hear this is moments like this. Kanye West hospitalized, handcuffed in an ambulance, 2016. This was probably them taking him to the institution, man. It's absurd, and I cannot wait for what Kanye West is going to expose. It's going to be massive, and this dude plays 5D chess.
Handcuffed in an ambulance.
I mean, you know, this, I don't know, this makes MK Ultra pop in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds kind of similar.
There's a lot of that stuff.
Do you?
I know a lot about MK Ultra.
Let's hear about it.
There is, well, the background to it is the government was freaking out that there were guys in the Korean War saying, America's bad. I renounce my citizenship. I hate America. Korea, yay, Korea. Boo, America kind of videos. And they're like, what? There's some technology, because these are patriotic Americans being told to do all this stuff. So there was a start of what I would refer to as a mental arms race. And the Soviets were also doing this stuff too. And this is where you had weird stuff going on. We had like Project Stargate, like the Men Who Stare at Goats movie, and remote viewing and all this other stuff was going on. Then they started MK Ultra, which involved a lot of former Nazi scientists, and involved a lot of LSD and dosing people with massive, massive doses of LSD.
Whoa.
And ruining a lot of people's lives in the process. But it was an attempt initially to find some kind of a truth serum. And actually the Navy participated in the biggest one, which was called Project Chatter, which is a sub-project of MK Ultra. And with this guy, he's a professor at, it's in Hamilton, New York. I can't remember the name of the Colgate University. His name's Dr. George Estabrooks. And he and J. Edgar Hoover are collaborating on a plan to use hypnosis to capture and hypnotize a German submarine captain and give him alter identities.
Oh, snap.
So, and send him back to his fleet in Germany and have him torpedo the entire German fleet inside the harbor.
Dang.
And this was a legit plan. And I have access to the documents that survived the destruction order, and it was called Super Spy. And do you do show notes? Like the PDF in the comment or PDF in the description thing?
Mm-mm.
Shit. I would have sent it to you so people can download it. But
we'll do it.
Snap.
We'll do it. We've
Okay.
done it before. I thought you meant yeah.
Okay.
We'll do it.
yeah, so I'll send it to you so people can actually look at these because they're
Perfect.
not public record.
Thank you.
I went to this guy's house, talked to a family member. These were like old stuff that survived the CIA's destruction order of all of this stuff. But it got weird. I mean, these guys had lots of power. This was called the OSS, which, as you know pretty well back then, we've got this guy running the show. His name's Wild Bill Donovan. And his instructions to the lead guys in every unit was to make merry hell when it came to MK Ultra. And they did this one project called Project Midnight Climax. Have you heard of this?
Mm-mm.
They took prostitutes in San Francisco, and these women would lure these men back to the hotel and drug them with LSD like high dose LSD.
Here we
and
go.
on the other side of a two-way mirror, these scientists would be back there writing down God knows what, because that's all we really know about the whole program. But they were also experimenting with aerosol LSD. Like, can we disperse it into a crowd? Can we disperse it over a city? What does it do in water supplies? And it was just some insane stuff. But they discovered this way to create a Manchurian candidate. And this is a lot of where some of these ideas came from. And this guy, George Estabrooks, perfected, or back then had it perfected, this system to create a Manchurian candidate to where he could create an alter ego inside of an army officer. One of them was the normal officer, and they called him Jones A, and there was a Jones B. And we could send this guy through enemy lines, doing whatever. Jones A is a normal army officer. Jones B is carrying these vital classified secrets, radio frequencies, whatever it is. I made that last part up, the frequency part up. Who knows what he's carrying? So if Jones A gets captured, Jones B doesn't activate until he hears a very specific hypnotic phrase or hypnotic command under hypnosis. And they do that on the other side of the line. So they developed this stuff way back when. And one of the doctors working on this whole project was named Dr. Joylyn West, who may have been involved with the Sirhan situation and Bobby Kennedy, and which is a whole nother rabbit hole. But it looks like Sirhan to me. I'm 100% convinced that he was programmed to do that.
No shit.
It's not hard to do. I mean, look at the Milgram experiment. 40 minutes, kill a stranger. And they didn't use hypnosis. There was no like cool sales tactic or script that they had to follow. Everybody's concerned with like, what do I say? What are the exact words I need to say? It's, can you trigger the fate model? Focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. And if you get that, you get compliance. And if you get that plus hypnosis, then you can create the Manchurian candidate. And it's not that hard to do. You don't need a bunch of advanced training to get that done. And I've studied that for a long time. So when I work with one-on-one clients who need a breakthrough or something like that, I'll use the exact same method to create an alter ego in a person that maybe doesn't eat 6 pounds of cheesecake every day. So you could take the exact same thing and put it in someone else that benefits them and acts as maybe a drill sergeant or a disciplinarian. And the reason that I started doing this or got interested in it, there are case studies and reports of people with dissociative identity disorder. So like 2 personalities or multiple personalities inside of a person, where one of them has a medically diagnosable condition and the other one does not.
Are you shitting me?
No, this is proven.
Wow.
Like one of them could be cortically blind, or one could have color blindness. One of them could have some kind of a diabetic condition. There are several conditions where these other personalities would have allergies even. Skin allergies and rashes in response to cat hair. And just upon reading this, I'm thinking like, well, could I make someone with severe depression have an alter ego that doesn't have the depression? And we know that neurons that fire together wire together. So over the course of 6 months, if they keep doing this, can they kind of like rewire their brain if this alter keeps taking over? Of course, I didn't know. I played with it for a really long time. And man, our brains are fascinating, and how fast they can change and adapt. And if you've got a good person working with you, you can get a lot done. But I think the only other way to really alter mental plasticity that fast would be psychedelics. This was like ketamine or a DMT or something like that.
So how would they do it with MK Ultra? Would it be they are in the middle of the journey, the psychedelic kicks in, and then is it a hypnosis? I mean, because the way it's described is they're injecting thoughts, right?
Yeah. So it would probably, There was never a recipe. My estimation is that it was a microdose of LSD because as you know, in psychedelics, language loses more and more meaning the more psychedelics you do. So I was thinking it was a microdose of LSD, massive amounts of hypnosis to where the person's hyper responsive to that person's voice. So like when I see clients, they listen to my MP3 audio thing that's hypnosis to just help them go to sleep every night. So by the time they show up and see me in person, their brain is hyper responsive to my voice, and it's a lot easier. And then during that process, in my estimation, they used real trauma, like oxygen deprivation, or something like that, to create a traumatic brain response inside of the limbic system of our brain, which makes us dissociate. And during this process of dissociation is when they put that second dissociated person or part of them, or I don't know what the words to say, but they're dissociated. So while they're dissociated, they hypnotize them and then kind of create that alter ego, tell them how they activate, tell them when they come up and when what their personality is, what they like to do. You're here to protect the hosts. So like if I did this to you, Sean B's job would be to protect Sean A. Does that make sense?
And kind of a little bit. I mean, I don't understand how person B comes out though.
Right.
You know what I mean? How is that determined?
Person B comes out through dissociation. So that's where we get the name dissociative identity disorder. So when a person is going through some kind of traumatic event, you'll talk to somebody, I think you had someone on your show who mentioned this, who goes through trauma and they just kind of like exit their body temporarily, or exit this one globe of consciousness into this other piece. And when they shift over to this other piece, you can separately create this piece and give them an identity, give them a name.
Yo, this is craziness. I don't know if y'all keeping up. I'm trying to keep up with all LayedBak A, LayedBak B, disassociate.
And if I can make something real in your head, then I can create it in reality for you. Which is why a lot of these cases of dissociative identity disorder were created by the psychiatrists in the 70s and 80s and the 90s. Because, this is called iatrogenic dissociative identity disorder. So if you came to me, I keep using you as the example, but there's nobody else here. Sean, if you came to me and I was a psychiatrist and we were working together, you said, well, I have this thing going on in my life and it's X and Y and Z. And all I did was start talking about two different parts of you. And I say, it seems like there's a part of you that wants to eat the right thing, but there's also a part of you that wants to overeat. And you're like, yeah. And then I go into 5 or 6 other examples in your life. Is this like this in social situations? Is there a part of you that wants to hide and there's a part of you that wants to socialize? Yeah. So I'd go into all these parts. And then I would say, you know what? I'd like you to take a questionnaire. And this questionnaire is maybe 17 questions. And a lot of these people made it up on the spot, these little questionnaires. And if I tell you that you scored high in dissociative identity, I'd say like this person, this other part of you has their own thoughts, their own behaviors, their own life. And I think a lot of your issues are from not addressing this other part of you that wants to do these other things. And they're probably here to keep you safe. So just really quick, just between you and I, if that other part of you had a name, what would you want to name that other part? And you say, Stephen. And I'm like, all right. So I'd like to talk to Stephen now. So within the course of one session.
This is crazy.
I have a conversation with Sean. I have a conversation with Stephen. And by the 3rd or 4th session, you are fully living your life as if there are 2 people in your head.
Wow.
Because what happens there's a lot of novelty, focus, a lot of authority, because there's a guy in a lab coat or a guy in the psychology sweater vest holding the clipboard there, taking you through a lot of this stuff. The authority and your expectation is what sets the stage for this to become a reality. So you can accidentally get dissociative identity from a provider.
Whoa.
Wow.
And this is very well documented.
Whoa.
And so what was the point of MK Ultra?
Who knows? I don't know.
You don't know.
I think the initial aim was to figure out the perfect truth serum, which they thought LSD was some miracle for truth serum. And they were testing sodium amytal, which is another drug that's pretty well known as a good truth serum. And they were trying to figure out, can we really brainwash people? Can we create Manchurian candidates? Can we split people's personalities? There was so much that it was just wild. It was the Wild West. So it's just looking at what they did, nobody would ever be able to know what the ultimate aim was.
Project MKUltra, in short, was illegal human experiments conducted by the CIA with the mission to identify drugs and procedures that would weaken people and force confessions and interrogations, by the means of brainwashing, physical torture, sexual abuse, and just torture in general. Using methods like giving LSD or other psychoactive drugs, electroshock, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, and all types of abuse. Importantly, the project would drug United States and Canadian citizens without their consent or knowledge. The project lasted for 20 years, and 2 years after ending, in 1975, it was revealed to the public by the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission, with more information becoming declassified later. 2 deaths have been attributed to MKUltra. However, it is likely many more. But with thousands of documents destroyed and those responsible never facing justice, not much is known about the victims. Diving deeper into Project MKUltra, it was 162 projects contracted out to various universities and research foundations. While being funded by the CIA, over 80 institutions didn't know they were working with the CIA, just like most of the people who participated in experiments didn't know they were being drugged. Under MKUltra, the CIA granted themselves authority to research how drugs promote the intoxication of alcohol, make hypnosis easier, make people withstand torture longer, produce amnesia, shock, and confusion. Pretty much any experiment that will tell them how biological and chemical materials will alter a human, they tried. That was the point of the project, although other motivations sprouted from within. Like the truth serum. The so-called truth serum was a multitude of different drugs. Sometimes LSD, sometimes anesthetics. But all in the hope that it can get information out of unwilling people. The CIA also knew how the public would react, hence all the secrecy and threat of punishment to those who knew about it. We'll talk about the lengths the CIA went to later to avoid prosecution, because, oh boy. Many tests were done to people who had mental disabilities, prisoners, cancer patients, drug addicts, and all different types of people that Sidney Gottlieb said were people who could not fight back. And for those who supposedly could fight back, they just drugged without them knowing. While many different types of drugs were used in MKUltra, like heroin or meth, Sidney loved his LSD. The LSD also made the project less into a defensive reaction to other countries and into more of an offensive weapon. The CIA had hoped that the LSD could give them control over someone else's body, like one of those thumbs in the Spy Kids movies.
So you brought up MKUltra.
Yes.
MKUltra was a government program run by the Central Intelligence Agency. Originally started as something called Bluebird in 1948-49, morphed into Artichoke, and then in 1952 became MKUltra. It was a mind control program, a brainwashing program. The CIA was trying to learn how to control people's behavior without their knowledge. Now, this all came out in Senate and congressional hearings in the 70s. It was exposed, but nobody knew about it until 1974 when Seymour Hersh, the New York Times reporter, reported it on the front page of the paper. So their main objective was to create what they called hypno-programmed assassins, people who would kill on command, popularly known as Manchurian candidates, after a book that was written in 1962 and later became a movie and then a movie again. The people would be, through drugs and hypnotism, the objective was to get people to go and commit an act of murder against their moral code and have no memory of their programming and be amnesic even of the act after the fact often. That was just that was their main goal, but they were also trying to create couriers, people, military people that they could implant messages, send them, across dangerous areas where there were, at that time it was the Vietnam War, and deliver messages and then have them wiped from their memory in case they were captured. They had all kinds of objectives. So Roger Smith was supervising Manson when he became he was able to do exactly what the MKUltra program had been trying to create and do for, at that point, about 15, 17 years. When it was all exposed in the 70s, and there were these hearings, first the Rockefeller Commission hearings and the church hearings, and then finally Senators Ted Kennedy and Daniel Inouye held hearings. The CIA admitted that they had done this, but no one would say exactly what they did. All the records have been destroyed when the two people who ran it, Richard Helms, who had become the director of the CIA in the 60s, and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who was kind of the mad scientist who had supervised they had safe houses in San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, where they would experiment on people that were lured into these apartments and houses that were either look like brothels or hippie communes or whatever. And the people who were working at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic that was run by another Smith, which makes it a little confusing, but Dr. David Smith, who founded it.
Bro, the fact that the government got away with this stuff and then destroyed the documents, it's crazy.
He had given an office to a scientist named Jolly West, Louis J. West, who was, when the hearings occurred in the 70s, identified as a top MKUltra researcher. He was an academic, come out of the military, had been at the University of Oklahoma, and then UCLA, running the psychiatric divisions. He denied ever being involved in MKUltra. And this was one of the moments, I think it was 2001, when, things really kind of shook the course of my reporting, was I learned that West had been at the same place that Manson was in the Haight in the summer, that Manson became exactly what the CIA was trying to create. And I knew, actually, I'd interviewed West about 7 years before for a story I did about celebrity stalkers, the people who were obsessed with stars and then only to kill them or try to kill them.
Damn.
And he was an expert in violence, hypnotism, brainwashing, and he was the chair of the psychiatry department at UCLA at that point. He was dead when his name came up in the Manson story, and there wasn't a lot of, I guess there was a lot of Google then, or a little bit, but when I did a little research, I found out that there had been these allegations that he'd been involved in MKUltra. He always denied it. He was never prosecuted, never even investigated. He went to his grave threatening to sue anybody that said he would have anything to do with this kind of a program.
Oh, wow.
Again, through another long story, but I got access to his files, which had been left at UCLA, and they had never been processed when I called. And when I made the request, it took them 2 or 3 months to process the papers. I went through them through the whole summer looking for a needle in a haystack, and it was intuition, gut. I just thought there might be something there, and sure enough, I eventually found it. It was correspondence between Jolly West and Sidney Gottlieb, the doctor that ran MKUltra, beginning in 1953, about conducting experiments on people without their knowledge to get them to have amnesia of the acts after they were programmed.
That's crazy.
And everything that he had been accused of and denied, he did. Not only did he do it, he created the blueprint for the whole program with Gottlieb.
What?
The fact that all these kind of interesting research programs merged at the Haight, at the clinic, and then Manson came out of it with the power to do exactly what the MKUltra had been trying to create for up to that point, I thought was worth investigating further. And that's why I kept going and going and going.
A lot of people seem to forget the fact that the CIA have financed research on mind control, LSD, magic, and killer dolphins. You really need to hear this one. It is batshit crazy. MKUltra was this broad area of research that appeared in the 1960s out of Cold War efforts to gain advantage over the Soviets. It was just a complete creative playground of throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. Their main objectives were mind control, behavioral modification, inducing amnesia, and to create Manchurian candidates, which are practically what we know as sleeper agents, and generally just try anything to get the upper hand when it came to intelligence. Sub-Project 94 and Sub-Project 142 tested the implantation of devices that could turn either cats or monkeys into recording devices or even weapons. I literally had the same fucking idea when I was 5 years old, and this was backed by a multi-million-dollar scientific studies. But that's not even the craziest part. The most famous part of MKUltra was the LSD experiments that they did on unwitting and unwilling civilians. This was was to observe 1, how it affects human behavior, and 2, whether it could be used as a sort of mind control. Believe it or not, the experiments induced trauma in a lot of participants and have been linked to several deaths since. On a lighter note, the CIA even contracted magicians to the course, specifically stage musician John Mulholland, who was asked to train their agents in misdirection and sleight of hand just in case they ever found a mind-altering wonder drug and needed to slip it into drinks unnoticed. But the absolute most nuts thing was the killer dolphins. But first, I'm an extremely small creator and these videos take me my whole weekends and evenings, and if you want more cool shit like this, then hit follow, join the family. So yeah, onto the weaponization of dolphins. Specific divisions of MK Ultra experimented with equipping dolphins with specific types of needles and manipulated into assassinating certain targets by injecting them with compressed air. The idea is they basically attack enemy scuba divers Dig Dug style and inflate them until they... This is all just the tip of the iceberg. So many documents around MK Ultra were destroyed in the 1970s.
MK Ultra was wild.
Story is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and I think it's also a really important part of human history. Imagine if the whistleblower had not come forward and we didn't know about MK Ultra. And all those documents didn't get, they didn't find the warehouse where the documents were.
Right.
Just imagine.
Oh yeah, we never would have known about
lost, it. Like Kaiser Sose.
Nobody in the program has ever come out and talked about it. I mean, I went to a couple of guys who are still alive, wouldn't talk to me.
Of course.
I mean, they always fall back on, we sign an oath with the agency.
Right.
If we talk to you without permission and they're not going to give us permission, we could go to prison.
Just imagine what life must have been like for them, knowing that this is what they were doing to people.
Oh yeah.
That's such a strange way to. These people are agents for the federal government. I mean, what kind of precedent does this establish?
Well, most of the people doing the research were subcontracted researchers at, medical personnel at prisons. And in the case of Jolly West, he was first in the Air Force and then he was in university settings. And Jolly was, once he got to the University of Oklahoma, he was experimenting on patients. And in one of his letters to Gottlieb asking for more funding, he's saying working with psychiatric patients actually benefits us because people can't, I'm not quoting directly here, but he was making the argument that their weird behavior wouldn't be noticed by anybody at the hospitals because they're psychiatric patients. So these people are getting LSD, which is a pretty powerful drug, and other drugs he was using, and he was hypnotizing them in many of his experiments without their knowledge, and they're psychiatric patients. I mean, it's worse than Nazis. Your mind is, the next most important thing besides your soul, and they're tampering with it.
Story is so nuts.
Yeah.
Just the provable actual facts are so nuts that very likely Charles Manson was a CIA asset. Very likely they had groomed him when he was in prison and taught him mind control techniques when people were high on acid. Taught him how to be sober but pretend he's on acid, and how to interact with these people that are on acid and shape their mind and even get them to commit murder. All of which is fact.
Yeah, no, it's I would say it's insane, but so much of it is, I don't want to say provable, but has enough supporting evidence to make a compelling case. And I love that the guy starts out just like just a kind of a normal celebrity assignment for Premier Magazine, right? Yep. Yeah, I've been on that magazine. I had that cover twice. My story didn't wind up like that.
I think that it was a story for a magazine, and it was just about the anniversary of the murders.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's what it was, yeah.
Just give us a piece, so people go, wow, crazy, 25 years later, wow.
Right, yeah.
And then he gets obsessed, and he starts realizing, well, this guy was full of shit, and that guy was corrupted.
Right.
Oh, my God, look at this, and hold on. Who's Jolly West? What's MK Ultra? This is real. Freedom of Information Act. Get the documents. Oh my God. Operation Midnight Climax. The government was running whorehouses. They were running whorehouses and using two-way mirrors and dosing Johns and filming them. And this has to do with Manson? Like, what the fuck was going on?
Yeah.
And then you realize that it was all a psyop to try to demonize the peace, love, and stop war movement. And that what they really wanted to do was stop the anti-war movement and do something to curb the cultural change that was happening. And so their strategy was to turn hippies into murderers.
It kind of worked.
It kind of worked.
Yeah.
It kind of worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long way to go, but I think it had the effect they were looking for.
Imagine if they didn't do that. Like, what kind of cultural change would have taken place? Because if you think about what happened between 1950 and 1960, it's like the world becomes a different place in 10 years. Between 1960 and 1970, it's like, what? This world is crazy. The music is crazy. The culture is crazy. The movies are nuts. Everything is wild. It's very psychedelic. And then Nixon comes along in 1970, passes this sweeping Schedule I act, makes all mushrooms and LSD, makes everything illegal, all to stop the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement at the same time when they're doing this Manson stuff. So it was a concerted effort across the board to stop the anti-war movement and to stop the civil rights movement. They were like, we're losing control and power. And so, I mean, it was an evil thing to do, but you kind of got to give them credit because it's pretty brilliant. Like, they actually pulled it off. You think of serial killer, you think of Manson. You think of the family. Oh my God, these hippies are murderous. They're a bunch of murderous freaks on drugs, cutting women's babies out of their stomachs and writing pig on the wall. Like, this is nuts.
Yeah, and they brought the Beatles into it.
And our own goddamn government engineered it.
New documents revealed that the CIA's mind control MKUltra program was secretly way worse than previously thought. Most people think of MKUltra as a CIA program in the 1950s to 70s where the agency tested hypnosis, brainwashing, and other psychological control techniques on its own operatives, but that may not be the whole truth because in 1973, then CIA Director, fearing an investigation, ordered for tens of thousands of documents related to the program to be destroyed. However, a cache of 20,000 misplaced files survived, and recently in 2024, 1,200 of those files were compiled and publicly published by the George Washington University. In these docs, we get the clearest picture yet of the truth of the program, and two major revelations were made. First, the CIA had set up secret research labs in hospitals and universities across the nation where more than 40 unwitting American civilians were subjected to psychological manipulation without their knowledge. And second, multiple suspected Russian spies were the subject of intense psychological operations meant to break their minds and force confessions.
40. Come on, 40 people.
Like, how many drug programs have the CIA funded? Like acid and smuggling heroin and coke and crack and Iran Contra. Like the CIA seems intertwangled, if you want to use the clinical term, with drug research, distribution, manufacturing, etc.
Yeah, and of course these are hard answers to question because there isn't always the best transparency with CIA. I mean, they definitely were doing psychedelic drug experiments without question. There's the death of Frank Olson. There's the death of a guy named Harold Blower. I don't know if you know that story.
No.
He was a tennis player who got a divorce, was depressed post-divorce, checked himself into a psychiatric hospital to deal with his post-divorce depression. They started doing drug experiments on this guy who's just like a normal dude. Right. And they injected him with so much MDA that he died. They gave him a fatal overdose of MDA, and it was a really high dose. It wasn't like he was sensitive or had a congenital heart defect or something that killed him with the MDA. That's known. They were involved in a lot of weird drug experiments, and the exact boundaries of what they were and weren't involved with is to this day unclear.
Because they destroyed all the documents. They destroyed that shit.
The Central Intelligence Agency was trying to find ways to wipe the past from people's minds, to see if they could free them from the conditioning that had been implanted there. Psychologists working for the CIA had come to believe that individuals were far weaker than they had believed. And they wanted to see if they could implant new patterns of thought in their minds.
Far weaker.
The image of the human being that was being built up at that particular time was that there was a great deal of vulnerability in every human being, and that vulnerability could be manipulated to program somebody to be something that I wanted them to be, and they didn't want to be.
That's crazy.
That you could manipulate people in such a way that they could be automatons, if you will, for whatever your own purposes were. This was the image that people thought was possible.
The CIA set up a secret project called MK Ultra. It was led by a psychiatrist called Ewan Cameron, who worked in a hospital in Montreal called the Allen Memorial. He took patients and, without telling them, experimented to see if he could wipe what he called the sick memories from their minds.
What the hell was these people thinking about?
Also, but when I broke my programming, which means I started to remember that I had been programmed, that I was leading a double life, in essence, for a number of years, many years. It's when you break your programming, it's very difficult. But when you break your programming, they'll do whatever they have to do in order to make sure that they re-recruit you, or they can stop that from happening. So if they can't stop you from remembering, they hope that they can stop you from speaking. All right?
She came in and she said she wanted her head shaved. The hairdresser refused, so she literally grabbed the hair clipper and started doing it herself.
Bradley, did she say why? I mean, did she
Yes.
offer any information?
They asked why she wanted to shave her head, and she said, I don't want anyone touching me. I'm tired of everybody touching me. Another employee there told Us Magazine she wasn't making sense at all, and you could tell she's not in a good place at all, and that she's totally freaking out. She was a nightmare.
Information. Leslie?
Certainly is a different...
Damn.
So MK Ultra was one of the hardest programs for me to wrap my head around, because it's a lot of subset programs, and I was really surprised that Brad Martin knew about MK Ultra.
People think that research people are crazy for talking about MK Ultra, mind control. Even if they acknowledge that that existed, they go, oh, well, that ended in the 70s. That's a crock of shit. The movie that I did involving that topic was Zoolander.
The fashion industry has been behind every major political assassination over the last 200 years.
I mean, at the time, I was making a comedy and I had no idea what I was involved with. But now looking back on the movie, I'm blown away at just the propaganda. In a movie like Zoolander, when they're showing you that they're controlling Derek Zoolander's mind through mind control, you realize that they're trying to desensitize you and to make you think that what you're watching is fiction because it's in a comedy.
CIA is funneling information into Hollywood. Hollywood is putting out in the movies, and the population believes it.
All right, so look, here's the deal. They have been desensitizing us since we were born, and I'll give you some examples. Let's start with the big one. Let's start with words we hear all the time and never even think about. Let's start with the word entertainment. To entertain. What does that mean? To bind or hold. To bind or hold what? An audience's attention. Okay, now let's take the word Hollywood. Where does that come from? Well, Hollywood comes from the holly tree. Right. And the ancient druids back in the day used to take the holly tree, make wands to weave spells, cast spells, or channel spells. Yep. And when they needed help, they would consult the magi's or the mediums of the day to help channel their spells to the population. We'll cut to today. What do we have in our houses? We have these black boxes. What are they called? TVs. But if you stop and you say the word television, television. And when you turn on that television, what do you get? What's the first thing that pops up? A list of channels. And when you turn on those channels, what's on those channels? Programming. They are programming you. They've been programming your whole life. You don't even know it. They do it with your music. They do it with your TV. They do it with your movies. They do it with your games. They have been programming us and programming you since you were little, and you don't even know it because you don't even question it.
He talking some facts.
The CIA wanted to take control of people's minds, and they realized it was a two-part process. First, you need to blast away the existing mind, and second, you need to find a way to insert a new mind into the resulting void. This is what's known as Project MKUltra, the most sustained search in history for techniques of mind control. After World War II, the tension between the two emerging superpowers, the US and the then Soviet Union, was at an all-time high. The threat of nuclear war was hanging over everyone's head, and ultimately the end of civilization. Technological progress didn't stop at the atom bomb, and both sides were continuing to invent bigger and badder weapons. But what both sides knew is that the most dangerous weapon was information, and the US became increasingly concerned that the Soviets had discovered a drug or technique that would allow them to control human minds. In response, the CIA began its own secret program to search for a mind control weapon they could use against their enemies. The experiments were covertly funded at universities and research centers, as well as American prisons and detention centers in Japan, Germany, and the Philippines, and the subjects endured procedures including electroshock and high doses of hallucinogens. Going back to the two-part process of mind control, it said they were extremely successful at blasting away the existing mind, but they didn't get too far on replacing it. In the 1960s, Project MKUltra was shut down, and due to its top secret nature, we will never know just how many people were affected by it. That is all for this video, but as always, if this interested you and you want to see more like it, I'd really appreciate it if you click the plus. Thank you.
CIA be doing whatever the hell they want.
I'm Christy Nicola. I was a subject in radiation as well as mind control and drug experiments performed by a man I knew as Dr. Green. And Donald Richard Ebner, my natural father, was involved with Dr. Green in the experiments.
Dang.
Dr. Green performed radiation experiments on me in 1970. All these experiments were performed on me in conjunction with mind control techniques and drugs in Tucson, Arizona. Dr. Green was using me mostly as a mind control subject. His objective was to gain control of my mind and train me to be a spy assassin. The first significant memory took place at Kansas City University in 1966. I was in what looked like a laboratory and there seemed to be other children. I was strapped down, naked, spread eagle, on a table, on my back. Dr. Green had electrodes on my body, including my head. He used what looked like an overhead projector and repeatedly said he was burning different images into my brain while a red light flashed aimed at my forehead. In between each sequence, he used electric shock on my body and told me to go deeper and deeper, while repeating each image would go deeper into my brain, and I would do whatever he told me to do. I felt drugged because he had given me a shot before he started the procedure. When it was over, he gave me another shot. The next thing I remember, I was with my grandparents again in Tucson, Arizona. I was 4 years old.
Whoa, 4 years old.
Hey, everyone listen to this, please. 2 days before I was in the hospital, I was on opioids. I was addicted to opioids. I had plastic surgery because I was trying to look good for y'all.
Kanye was diagnosed with bipolar disorder after a manic episode back in 2016 when he was placed on an involuntary psychiatric hold at UCLA Medical Center.
I am putting my career, my life, my public well-standing at risk when I talk to y'all like this. This is a moment in the Matrix, bro.
A few years later, he claimed he wasn't bipolar after all, insisting that he was misdiagnosed.
I was connected with a neuropsychologist that works with the athletes in the NBA and the NFL, and he looked at my brain. He said that I actually wasn't bipolar. I had sleep deprivation, which could cause dementia 10 to 20 years from now, where I wouldn't even remember my son's name.
Dang.
They sedated you.
Yes.
Yeah. What was the thought process behind it when you talked to a doctor about this? What did they tell you was wrong with you?
They told me I was bipolar. And I remember going on TMZ and saying, slavery is a choice. And they medicated me for saying that, for having that opinion and saying it out loud. But as I put those contracts up, I'm saying, this is a choice. As you
didn't mean people being abducted and brought into slavery and put into chains was a choice. What you were talking about is people making decisions that would enslave them financially and enslave their life.
Yeah.
But it was taken out of context, and it was taken in the least charitable way, and they decided to try to say, look at crazy Kanye, look at this shit he's saying.
They killed him for that.
Between the years of 1957 and 1984, I became a pawn in a government scheme whose ultimate goal was mind control and to create the perfect spy, all for the use of chemicals, radiation, drugs, hypnosis, electric shock, isolation in tubs of water, sleep deprivation, brainwashing, verbal, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. I was exploited unwittingly for nearly 3 decades of my life, and the only explanations given to me were that, quote, the end justifies the means, and, quote, I was serving my country in their bold effort to fight communism. I can only summarize my circumstances by saying they took an already abused 7-year-old child and compounded my suffering beyond belief. The saddest part is, I know for a fact that I was not alone. There were countless other children in my same situation, and there was no one to help us until now. I've already submitted as much information as possible, including conversations overheard of agencies responsible. I'm able to report all this to you in such detail because of my photographic memory and the arrogance of the people involved. They were certain they would always control my mind. Although the process of recalling these atrocities is not an easy one, nor is it without some danger to myself and my family, I feel the risk is worth taking. Dr. L. Wilson Green once described to Dr. Charles Brown that, quote, children were used as subjects because they were more fun to work with and cheaper, too. They needed lower profile subjects than soldiers or government people. So only young, willing females would do. Besides, he said, I like scaring them. They in the agency think I'm a god, creating subjects experiments for whatever deviant purposes Sid and James can think up.
Bro, this is some crazy shit.
MK Ultra was a real thing. Most of the documents were destroyed by Director Helms in violation of the law.
Right.
But even with all the documents destroyed, we still have a pretty darn good idea of what MK Ultra was, and pretty much every facet of it was illegal.
Yeah.
It was extensive experimentation on American citizens without their knowledge and without their consent. To the point where under something called MK Chickwit, which was a subset of MK Ultra, the CIA actually weaponized a virus that they blew into the San Francisco fog just to see if people would get sick. And this was in the late 1950s. And 11 people came down with this rare urinary tract infection that doctors had never seen before. And so that was a success. That made them think, oh yeah, we can weaponize this. And, you know, maybe we blow this in Shanghai Harbor.
They did that shit to their own people, to their own citizens. Crazy.
Or in Moscow in the summertime. Another thing that they did, also part of MK Ultra, is they recruited prostitutes in San Francisco.
Yes.
To go out and find Johns and bring them back to what was really a CIA safe house. It was made to look like a cat house.
Government was wilding.
And there's a guy named George Estabrooks who I think was kind of the pioneer in doing this hypnosis for things that may not be in your best interest. And George Estabrooks was a professor at Colgate University. And he had these documents called Super Spy, where it talked about how to split a personality and how to program spies to carry secrets in these like partitioned, so to speak, parts of their brain that even if they were interrogated and captured, they couldn't access until they received some kind of code word across the enemy lines. These are MK Ultra documents that were inside of George Estabrooks' attic and never got destroyed. That the CIA told them to destroy it. They're not even on the internet.
Wow.
I will put them for you if you want. Throw them in the show notes. And these are brand new. This is not like something you type in MK Ultra and you get access to these documents. So it goes through this little formula to make this super soldier and then a super spy. And he was one of these pioneers. These are letters between him and J. Edgar Hoover, and him and a lot of these famous hypnotherapists and psychiatrists back then. And he was a psychiatrist as well. So Estabrooks had these systems developed, and they developed an entire plan to hypnotize this German submarine captain and send him back to his harbor in Germany and have him torpedo the entire German fleet with a split personality.
2 American spies have just arrived at Sandoz Laboratories, one of the world's leading pharmaceutical factories. The mission: corner the market on the world's supply of a powerful new psychoactive drug.
The CIA was scared stiff the KGB was going to get all this LSD and come over and start dosing people. So we bought every drop of LSD in existence at that point.
The CIA has just authorized the purchase of 10 kilograms of pure LSD-25, enough to dose more than half the population of the United States.
They gave it to George White and let George start dosing people.
George Hunter White, a larger-than-life undercover federal narcotics agent. Unbeknownst to his supervisors, White also works for the CIA. His job: to conduct experiments for an operation called Midnight Climax.
George had a CIA safe house stocked with booze. George would sit behind this one-way mirror, drinking martinis, sitting on a portable toilet. If he had to take a leak, he didn't want to get up and leave.
White pays prostitutes to lure their clients to the agency's safe house.
Hookers who would bring these suckers back to the apartment and dose them with pure LSD-25.
Pure LSD.
This is where I have my effect, in the mind.
This is lysergic acid diethylamide, better known as acid. The powerful drug was first synthesized in 1938 in Switzerland. With a dose of mere micrograms, the mind becomes confused. Perception is distorted. Personal identity is called into question.
Damn.
The results can be euphoric bliss or deadly panic. White takes meticulous notes and files his reports to his CIA handlers.
So that was how LSD was introduced to this country.
Operation Midnight Climax is part of a larger top-secret CIA program called MK Ultra. The goal: learn how to control and even reprogram people's minds. The CIA believes LSD might hold the key. Over the next 10 years, the agency doses a cross-section of the American public.
They bought the whole thing of LSD.
Operation Midnight Climax is part of a larger top-secret CIA program called MK Ultra. The goal: learn how to control and even reprogram people's minds. The CIA believes LSD might hold the key. Over the next 10 years, the agency doses a cross-section of the American public. Everyone from unwitting housewives to soldiers to even criminals like gangster Whitey Bulger is tested.
You know, what the CIA really dreamed of was sort of like a drug you could give to someone, get them to commit all sorts of unspeakable acts, and they wake up the next day and they don't remember what they've done.
They were looking into brainwashing. They were looking into mind control. They were looking into how they could create what they called Manchurian candidates. They were trying to figure out if they could get people to go out and do things that they would ordinarily not do, like assassination.
The case of MK Ultra has to be one of the craziest cases of blowback in CIA history, because here they took this drug, LSD, and thought that they were going to be able to use it to control people's minds. And the unbelievable irony is that LSD is a drug that does exactly the opposite. It frees your mind and causes people to question authority.
Turn on, tune in, drop out. The CIA's attempt to control people turned out to be just the opposite. It created the counterculture as we know it of the 60s. It was the CIA that introduced LSD to the United States.
All right, guys, that was another TikTok compilation, man. I was talking about mind control, LSD, MK Ultra. Y'all got to let me know in the comments what y'all think about this. Y'all got to let me know in the comments what the hell. They was sending stuff through the air. They brought up the whole LSD. Dude went in there because he got a divorce, messed around and got drugged and died. Really? All these forms and documents is just destroyed. Look, man, if y'all into this, man, y'all should binge watch. I got a whole playlist online. You can watch it, but hey, proceed with caution. Till next time, self-love and positivity. Fire Squad, I got you and you know it.